let's get going.
Amazing, thank you. So, episode 4 of our series today. If you've missed the previous episodes, you will be sent them as downloads after this, so please do not panic. But if you have been to the previous ones, welcome back. So today we're going to look at building our first agent. What have we done to date? So in episode 1, we went through, what are the right tools? What are the questions you need to ask? What are the stakeholders you need to involve? Episode 2, and this is the one that's really important as a backbone to today's session, is learning how to prompt. Genuinely, this session transformed how I work with Copilot, and the results I've been getting have transformed from what I learned from Fraser. Episode 3, we've concentrated on some quick wins. We looked inside Outlook, Word, Excel, and Teams. And then today we're going to go that step further and now see how we build an agent, how we do your best prompt, how we attach your documents, and how you can share that with your team, depending on what rules and restrictions you may or may not have within your tenant. So that's what we're set to do today. As always, Fraser is going to be very brave and do live demos. So everything you're seeing will be completely live. And at that, I will hand over to you, Fraser. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks, Emma. Well, as I say, it is all live, so let's see how we get on. It's very warm today, but I'm very pleased to be sat in a very nicely air-conditioned little box. So today, we're still in the world of personal productivity. And so up to this point, we've been talking about how to do crafting, some quick wins, how to use Copilot inside of tools like Excel and Word. But every single conversation still starts from that standing place, that blank box. You've got to provide all of the context every single time. Now, if you're doing something repetitively, that's really quite annoying. And you hear all the hype about, well, agents can do everything, and agents are this and agents are that. Today, what we're going to try and do is take for you that key thing that you do repeatedly and actually get Copilot to work for you. Now, this comes with a big star, because what we're not doing today is going into the next step, which will come towards the end, which will be the next episode, Copilot Studio. We're not doing that today. We're still just in Copilot. So there's no code required. It's all contextual. You'll be able to use natural language to describe what you want. But the outcome, hopefully you'll see, is really, really powerful. So let's get going. So as we've said, Copilot Chat and M365 Copilot, that's the bit where you type in and you get a response, that generative AI. It's awesome as a generalist, but it doesn't do something specific. And so when we start to talk about agents, we need to start to think about a task and a role. So I don't know where you all work today, but if you imagine, you wouldn't ask for a new member of staff to join the team without writing a job description, without making it really clear what you want that role to do. When you think about agents, it's exactly the same. You need to provide instructions, a role, something really specific that it can do. And if you think about like an onboarding of a new member of staff, you're going to give them information. You're going to give them grounding information, knowledge, things to work from. And it's exactly the same with an agent. So today, we're going to use M365 Copilot agents, which is actually Copilot Studio Lite. Nomenclature is irrelevant. If you've got M365 Copilot, you can create these agents as you go. You can share these agents with people that have got Copilot Chat, and it goes on to kind of pay as you go. But for now, let's just get the agents built, and then we can see where it takes us. So how is building an agent different from just using Copilot? In this case, here's the recipe. So it's 4 key things that you need. One is the purpose. What is it you want this agent to do? So just think like that job description. What is the brief that's going to be really structured around what this agent can and cannot do? Once you've got that, then we go back to that craft prompt. And as Emma's already said, episode 2 is the one you want to watch if you don't know what a craft prompt is. It's just how we structure information that an agent's going to be able to understand really nicely. Then we're going to add 2 more things beyond just chatting with Copilot. We're going to add some knowledge. The knowledge is what sometimes you might hear talk about grounding. What does this agent know for it to then be able to provide some kind of response? Not just the general world of the internet. It's something very specific, and it's specific to you, your organization, and in this case, the agent itself. Then what we're going to do is think about some starter prompts, things that are going to just kind of trigger your mind of thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to do this task, I'm going to do that task, all the things that you've told the agent it can do. So I'm going to introduce you to a little fictional place called Meridian Office Supplies. Meridian Office Supplies, which is a completely fictional demo company, make and deliver office supplies, tables, desks, that kind of stuff. And today, it usually takes me about 30 or 40 minutes every time I want to kind of hunt through product sheets or price lists. And then, of course, we've got discounting rules and there's PDFs and we can never really find them. And then we've also got competitor kind of battle cards. Our marketing team keeps sending me them. I have no idea where to start. That's why it takes me 30 or 40 minutes before I have every single call to find all the information. So that's the problem statement. So what we're going to do is we're going to build our first agent and we're going to build it live, and it's going to be our deal prep assistant. So, as I explained before, think about it like a job description. What's the purpose? The purpose is I want to brief me before any customer meetings. What kind of instructions am I going to give it? Well, it's a sales kind of analyst role, which is going to show pricing and working, names any approvers if we're going to be doing discounts, but also, doesn't inherit products or prices. These need to be specific. Then knowledge. Well, what knowledge am I going to give this agent? Okay, so the knowledge I'm going to give the agent is going to be a list. And in this case today, I'm just going to use a text file, but you can use anything you like. So what's the product range? Listings, all of your kind of products that you would sell. What's the pricing and discounting guide? So that's your recommended retail price, 10% discount, 50, whatever it may be. And then what's the competitor battle card? All of that stuff saying, here's my products, but how do our competitors look? And then I'm going to list out some starter prompts. So let's jump live into Copilot. And let's
Whilst you're
this
doing that,
goes.
Fraser, I forgot to mention at the top, we're very happy to take questions as we go through. Don't feel you've got to keep it hidden, burning question to the end. So just pop it in the Q&A button at the top. I'll pop a message in there so you can see where to ask, and feel free to ask. Over to you, Fraser.
Thanks, Emma. So here we are in Copilot. Now, a couple of things to point out to you straight off the bat. If I just zoom out a little bit, you may or may not already have this, but Copilot has changed. We have a slightly different user interface. So some of you will be used to seeing the briefcase in the world at the top of the screen. That's now moved over here on the left-hand side. So Work IQ is the briefcase. And if you click it, it kind of scores itself out. And this is the globe. So this is that difference between having access to all of your M365 world, which is Work IQ on, and not having access to all of that, which is Work IQ off. So that's just a little pointer. You'll notice some things kind of look ever so slightly different, but it's absolutely the standard Copilot. There's nothing different in here. And on the left-hand side, what we're going to do is we're going to go to Agents. Now, if we click on this, you can see there's some agents that we've got, a researcher, analyst. These are all the M365 agents. I've got two that I made earlier, which I'm going to show you a bit later on. But first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to create our very own agent from scratch. So when we click on the little sidebar, we go down to the bottom and we go New Agent. Now, Microsoft being Microsoft and Copilot being Copilot, of course, it wants to give you a place that you can start to type, tell it what you want and tell it how you want it. That's an even shorter cut version of what I'm going to show you today. But instead of doing it this way, which would mean a backward and forward conversation, I'm going to show you all of the bells and whistles that we can use inside the Copilot chat agents area so that there's no confusion later on. So we're going to skip the agent helper and we're going to build it from scratch. So on the left-hand side, this is still that agent helper. And on the right-hand side, it's effectively all of the things, all of the configurable bits that you've got available to you. But we're going to walk through this step by step. So the first thing we need to do is we need to give our agent a name. So very simply, paste in my name. Nobody needs to see me type. It's really not very pretty. The next thing we need to do is put in a description. Now, a description maybe sounds a little bit silly, but a description really helps the agent understand its positioning. So here we're going to say helps Meridian salespeople prepare for customer meetings, product specs, pricing, discount rules, and competitor positioning. All from the official sales pack. So that is effectively the first line on your job description. What's the point of this agent? Now, this is where we then start to think, oh, craft. The instructions, excuse me, the instructions are your super prompt. What is it that you want this agent to be able to do? Now, if you haven't seen episode 2, this might seem a bit of a shock, but if we paste it in, I will be able to walk it through. So, what does this agent do? So you support in the third party Meridian Office Supplies sales team as they prepare for customer meetings and calls. So that's the task. So what's the role? Act as an experienced Meridian sales operations analyst who knows all of the product range, pricing and discount rules and competitor positioning inside out. So it's the expert in just that. Not everything else, not tomorrow's weather, it's just that. Use only the knowledge files provided, and I'll show you the toggle later on. Product range, pricing and discount guide, competitor battle cards as your sources of truth. If the answer is not in those files, say so clearly and suggest who to ask. Do not guess or invent products, prices or discounts. This is our guardrail. This is the bit that says, don't give me hallucinations. I'm not interested in you making stuff up. I just want facts. And then we've got some instructions. These are the tasks I want it to do. And then always show you're working and be confident and concise and practical, use UK English, all the stuff that we talked about when we talked about craft prompting. Now, I've only put a short one in here just for today's demo, but you can go up to 8,000 characters. So really use that space because that's how you're going to have a difference between an agent meh and an agent wow. Okay? Now, before we go on, every agent needs a cute little icon. So here's one I prepared earlier. Let's apply that. There we go. It's now an agent. It's got a picture. So then we come down to the second section. The second section is the knowledge section, and this is the one to also be really, really careful on. So you can add lots of different sources, and as you'd expect, in Copilot we can use things like SharePoint, we can use Teams locations, we can use Outlook, we can use the world, the internet. So we can add URLs, all sorts of different things. So if you wanted an agent to know everything about your business website, put your business website in there, and it'll be able to inference over all the information that it can see over the top layers of your website. Anytime you see a little eye, just click on it and it'll give you a little bit more information and also a link to the Learn More pages so you can find out more. But for now, we're just going to check out the other things. So first of all, search all websites. I definitely want that off. This agent doesn't need to know anything about the world. It just needs to know what I tell it. Use only specified sources. Yep, that's what I want. And then reference org chart and profile information. Now for today's demo, I'm not going to turn that on, but in your organizations, you might go, well, hang on a minute, I want it to know who the boss is. So if you think about this thing where we're going to be talking about discounts and who's got authorities, you might want that hierarchy embedded in the agent so it knows, well, Fraser's boss is X. Now for the interesting bit, I'm going to add my own information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload 3 text files. This is my product range, my product pricing, and my competitor battle card. So select them all and upload them. And what you'll see down here is here's my grounding information. Here's my knowledge. This is the stuff that the agent goes over. These are the things that I would have to do manually for every single deal to check. The last 2 bits in my agent setup would be capabilities. Do I want it to be able to create these types of documents? And do I want it to be able to create these images? Now, for today's demo, we're not going to go as far as doing kind of image creation or word creation. We're just going to use it in the text. But yeah, we can leave them on. We want these agents to be able to do these kind of things. And the last bit is suggested prompts. Now, suggested prompts, you might think, well, what's the point of suggested prompts? I'll show you that because in here, what we can say is, well, actually, the first thing that we're likely to do is meeting briefings. And what you can do is provide kind of a supplemental message that helps me remember what this is about. So I'll read that one out. You can't read it very clearly there. Prepare a briefing for my next meeting. I'll tell you the customer is, what they're interested in, and roughly how big the deal is, and you can pull together the recommended products, pricing, and guidelines and questions I should ask. And of course, if I'm building this for me to use, these suggested prompts might not have so much value because I know what I want it to do. But if you're going to start to share these agents, these suggested prompts can really help your colleagues know well, what can this agent do without asking it, what can you do? And of course, if you ask it, what can it do? It will tell you. So I'm going to add 3, and then I'm going to actually add a 4th one. And again, you can keep adding as many of these as you like. After about 6, you then start to think, actually, what's the value here? And you'll see in a moment why I'm saying that. So I've added 4. Let's just stop there. That's it. So I've done no coding. There's no sophisticated magic that goes on in the background. There's no prep here other than the files I prepared, which are literally just basic Word documents that have been converted to text files. And that's it. That's you created your agent. So if I just zoom out ever so slightly, my create button has now appeared, and I'm just going to go for it. Now, at this point, you probably want to preview to check that it's working correctly. But for the purpose of the demo, I'm just going to show you now exactly what's going on. The agent is currently live, but it's private. It's only for me, because this is my personal productivity agent. So let's have a go. Let's see what it looks like. So here we are. Here's my little deal assistant. It's ready to go. I've got my little brief. These are my little cards, and I can show more. So there's the 3 and then the 4th one, which is why it's 3 and not 4 originally. So the 3 are the ones that are always visible. I'm going to start to use it. So let's jump in. Again, I've got some pre-typed things to save time because nobody needs to watch me type. I'm meeting the facilities director of a 120 desk professional services firm tomorrow. They have sustainability targets and they're comparing us with Desk Direct, a competitor. Please give me a one-page briefing. Sounds like the sort of thing I would normally type in to Copilot, but of course Copilot's going to give you a whole raft of different things. This is just going to give me exactly what I need because it's only going to reference files which are relevant and approved by you, the creator. So here's a phone-friendly one-page briefing for tomorrow's facilities directors meeting focused on sustainability and the Desk Direct comparison. So what's the customer situation based on what you've told me? What products are available? And again, we've got these little icons. That means we've referenced something. So again, we could open up that reference file. We've got the recommended products. We've got some price guidance and workings. Again, this is the sort of thing I would probably have to go to Excel to do because, hey, I'm not going to be able to do my 120 times table. So it can really help pull together some quick insights that you can go in confidently knowing exactly what your positioning is. Now, in this case, we've got a competitor, an incumbent. Great. Well, what's the position here? Well, actually, we would expect them to look cheaper at checkout, but there's something else to consider. So all of this information has come through directly from those files. And of course, it brings the context of whatever I've said. In this case, it's 120 desk with sustainability targets. Tomorrow, it might be something completely different. So you can see immediately there's real value there. A couple of clicks, create an agent. Now I've got something I can do repeatedly rather than having to retype that prompt every single time. So let's give it something to chew on. The customer wants an 18% discount off an order of the 60 Flex desks. Can I do that? Well, let's find out. Well, no, it's above my authority level. How does it know that? It knows that from the details that I gave it in that text file. What is our discount policy? Who can approve what? So let's just go through this. What's a pricing check? It's these things. Does that look right? Does that feel right? Yeah, these look like numbers I recognize. The £429. Great. Actually, I can go to a 10% discount, but I can't go to 18%. But what it does, it says requires sales director sign off. So, okay, maybe I can do it, but I would need to get the sales director to prove it. So what would be the recommendation? Offer up to 10%, explain the situation on 18%, but explain that you've got to do the sales director approval. If this is being driven by a desk direct comparison, actually, the battle card guidance is not to chase their headline price beyond band because there's other value that you can then bring into that. So I wonder what our lead time might be on carpets, because carpets might form part of the deal. And in this case, what I'm trying to show here is I didn't provide any knowledge in the files on carpet lead times. So it's going to say, I can't confirm the lead time for office carpet tiles. Do you remember back to our job description? We gave it some really specific things that it can do, and this is not one of them. So it provides lead times for the things it knows about, but it doesn't provide lead times for things it doesn't know about. So it fails safely. And in that way, what it means is you're not going to get those hallucinations, because those hallucinations are not what you want in an agent. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is write a quote summary. So in this case, we've got write a quote summary, 40 task, pro chairs, 10 posture elites, delivery to leads, new customer. So some really sharp, short information because I've got an order. Wow, before I'd even thought it through, there's my price list. There's my products. That's copy and pastable into an email. Bang, job's a good one. Even goes far as to say, why don't you recommend a 5% discount? Delivery, commercial, all of the information that's in all of that knowledge, straight through, guaranteed. So that's my first demo. That is the deal prep assistant in, what was that? I don't know, less than 15 minutes. We built an agent, we've used it for 4 different use cases, and the quality of output and the speed of output, I think, is fantastic.
Fraser, we've had a question in from Dan. If you then went back to your standard workspace, how you would actually get back to that deal prep assistant?
Fantastic question. Because I've created it, on the left-hand side, we come back to agents, and there it is. So it's really easy once you've created them to find them. Now, coming up soon in this session, we're also going to do 2 further ones, 2 further examples, but I've created them in advance because creating them just takes 5 or so minutes, but I'm going to show you exactly the same scenario with all the information. I'm going to show you them working. So once you've created them, they live here in agents. Again, if you do the little forward arrow, you can click on it directly or click on agents and then click on it here. If you want to make changes or edits to it, you can then do the 3 little dots and edit. But here's where I'm going to show you the share button, because right now I might say, oh, I really love my deal prep assistant. I might want to share it. So if you click on share, you then get who can you share it with. Now, this is where you might run into problems, because right now, because I'm on a demo account, I actually don't have the authority to share with anybody in my organization. So it may be I want to share it with some specific people, or I might want to share it with everybody in the organization. But expect to get some spanners thrown at you when you come into this space, because these are exactly the sorts of things that organizations will lock down, because this is personal productivity. Organizations will probably want to create a full fat version of this deal agent that ties directly to live data or information within your organization that's not coming from you directly. So if there is any limits on here and you can't click anything, don't be alarmed. But in this case, I could say Emma Port. There you are. Apply. Awesome. It now appears in Emma's Teams area, and I can even send her a link. So I've created it and I've now shared it with Emma, and me and Emma can use the same deal prep agent all the time. Catch, of course, is if the deals change, you, the creator, are responsible for maintaining this. So nobody else is going to maintain it, which is why when we saw some of the uploads, you can use SharePoint locations or SharePoint files. So if those are being updated and maintained, as they update, your agent will also update. So that was a long answer to a short question, but hopefully that all makes sense.
Fraser, we've had another quick question. I think I know the answer. Is this the free version or the paid for Copilot version?
Great question. So today I am building inside M365 paid for version. However, once you've built the agent, you can share it to users who don't have M365 Copilot. How does that work? Well, me, paid for version, I don't need to pay any credits or any. Every time I use this, it's all part of my M365 Copilot subscription. If somebody that's using this doesn't have a subscription, the tokens will be charged on pay-as-you-go. So if you're a free version and you want to share this, you've got to have a pay-as-you-go subscription set up, and then the tokens, the usage, will just be driven through that. So it can be used on free, but we're showing it today in paid for, because you need that paid for license to kind of get the full version, the full experience that you're seeing today.
Thanks, Fraser.
So that was the first one. That was build our first agent, this deal prep assistant, and hopefully you'll see it's super easy to create and then super quick to then get response. So the second agent I thought I would talk through today, I'm just conscious of time, so I'm going to just keep going. This concept of NDAs and first pass assistance keeps coming up, and we talk to lots and lots of clients about this. There's somebody in the organization that does this task repeatedly. There's maybe 10 standard things that they check for. Hang on a minute, why do we give this into the hands of the teams rather than always having to go to that individual? So what are we going to do? Think job description. What's the purpose? Flag contract deviations from our playbook for a human reviewer. What are the instructions? Again, I've got a really nice crafted prompt for that. What's the knowledge? Well, what's our NDA position? What's the supplier agreement playbook? And what's that 10-point review checklist? Something that I wanted to do every single time. And then some starter prompts. Now, one of the checks here is, and again, it's in the guardrails inside our instructions, is that the first pass is a qualified reviewer. It is not legal advice. And again, if you're building agents that have got a sense for legal or a sense for consequence, remember it's human in the loop time here. This is not the same as sending an NDA to a legal practitioner who can give you legal advice. It's a first pass. So let's have a look. So as I showed before, I'm going to go agents. And this time I'm going to look at this one, the contract first pass assistant. And here it is. So just zoom in ever so slightly. In this case, I've provided 4 first passes. And because we didn't build it, I can't quite remember quite what it does. So what does it do? Well, run a first pass review of the clauses I paste next. So if I click on this, I can do that, and we'll do that in just 1 second. Preferred NDA. What are our preferred NDA positions on term and survival? Oh, cool. I could click that and it would tell me. Red flags. Which items on the checklist are red flags most often and why? And then draft the email to the counterparty summarizing our position. So let's give it a go. So run a first pass review and the clauses I paste next. So let's go and get some clauses. So here, excuse me, here what we're going to do is we are going to pretend that Bright Lines legal contract team have sent us some NDA clauses. And I'm just going to paste them. Oops, lost my mouse. There we go. I'm going to paste them in. So here's some confidential information. Here's some obligations, exclusions, remedies, all sorts of, sorry if we've got some legal people on the call, but these make no sense to me. Written in such a way that you kind of go, I'm not sure I understand this, which is why we put NDAs in the first place. So let's send it off and see what it does. So remember, these agents that I've created for today's demo only use the content that I've provided it. And in this case, it was information about our position on what we'll accept and what we won't accept. So if we scroll down, I'm just going to zoom back out ever slightly so we can see this table. Can move it across. So there's information in here. So what have we got? So here is the checklist. Here's the status, the clause, and the explanation. And if we zoom across even further, we've then also got the position checked against. Now, that's all great, but let's look at the detailed clause flags. This is where I was saying I want red, amber, greens. I want to understand whether it's something I can accept, whether it's something I can't accept, if there's a red line or something that we probably need to negotiate on. So again, here we go. Here's all the different clauses, what we would expect, what we won't expect, why it's missing in this particular case. Let's see, this is exclusions, issued identified. Only one exclusion is included. What's missing? These are things that we expect. What's the playbook position? Missing more than one of the 4 standard exclusions, therefore it is red. So we wouldn't accept that. All of those are there. What's the overall flag count? What's the 3 highest prioritization items for review? So this is great. I've received it. I can straight away back on the phone and say, hang on a minute, we really need to look at these top 3 things. Once you've got that far, maybe we could start to negotiate. But right now, this is not something we can accept. So if I then say, tried to call them, they weren't available, please draft a short professional email to Bridgestone's legal Bright Lines legal contract summarizing the changes we've done before we can sign. So we're using the context from the agent, and now we're going to create something that's useful for me, something I can actually go back to the team with and say, okay, let's go. Now, the difference between a personal productivity agent, like we're seeing here today, is that it can't really take actions on your behalf. That's what our next event is going to be, thinking full fat version of Copilot Studio. And in there, you can then say, send this email to the client, send this, do this task, update this ticket, do something beyond the realms of Copilot. For now, because this is just personal productivity, this is just helping me get there faster. So for this, I would copy this out and I would paste it into Outlook. The next question for them is, for this agent, is Brightline have asked us to sign their master services agreement for facilities management. Are their fee provisions acceptable? I don't know. And hopefully what we should find is that the agent will say, I'm sorry, I can't do that. That's something I don't have information on. So again, this is back to this idea of ensuring we don't get hallucinations and basing it on the facts that we expect and accept as an organization. So that's our NDA agent. Super quick to create, exactly the same thing as we did last time. All I've done here is I've put in our one click back. I've put in our purpose. I've put in a really nice crafted prompt. I've added 3 text files, in this case our positions, and I've given it some start prompts, and it's ready to share and really, really powerful. The last one that keeps coming up again, and it came up from some of our feedback from some of the earlier calls, was a brand voice assistant. So exactly the same. How many organizations create LinkedIn posts, web copy, all the sorts of things that the marketing teams are doing? How can we get that into something, an agent that helps us create recognizable text that we want to kind of promote as our house voice? So 4 things again. What's the purpose? This agent drafts and rewrites copy into the Meridian house voice. Instructions: act as a senior copywriter, follow our voice pillars and channel rules. And again, I've written these things in text documents that I've uploaded. What's the knowledge? A brand voice guidelines. This is a file which describes our brand voice guidelines. The EcoDesk campaign brief, because this is a new product that we're taking to market. And what's the key messages and boilerplates? What are the key messages that we want to be promoting as an organization so that we can thread them into any kind of copy that we're producing? So let's have a look at that one. We go back to agents. Here is my brand voice assistant. And in exactly the same way, we've got our starter prompts. So we're going to dive straight on in and start with, from the EcoDesk Autumn Campaign Brief, which is our new product that we're going to be taking to market, draft the LinkedIn post aimed at facilities managers and the announcement email to existing accounts. So this is standard thing. We've got a new product, but we want to create something a bit more subtle, specifically for facilities managers. But we want to keep it on track and we want to keep it on brand. So here we go. Here's our LinkedIn post for facilities managers. EcoDesk was built for the balance. It combines a top made from 87% post-consumer recycled board, FSC, certified timber frame. I know nothing about chairs, by the way, but that's what it's told us. Awesome. But it then also tells us why. It's created our hashtags because it knows it's going to be for LinkedIn. Voice check. Okay, so it's plain speaking, practical language. It uses only approved sustainability facts, includes offered end date and a single call to action, which is book an EcoDesk demo. So these are the things that we would want to standardize as we do these sorts of announcements. Here's my announcement email. Ready to go, copy and paste, off we go. So as you can see, really quickly, we've then got really nice prose based with a slight twist, because this one's for facilities managers, but the next one we do might be for HR managers, who knows? The second thing this agent does is we can give it some Fraser version of what I might post on LinkedIn, and actually this agent will go, hang on a minute, that's not very good. So rewrite this in our house voice. Meridian is thrilled to announce our revolutionary, eco-friendly, eco-design workspace solution, best-in-class sustainability meets world-class ergonomics. Reach out today to leverage our amazing launch offer. That's not okay. So my agent, can you give me a hand here? Cool. And here it is. Meet EcoDesk, a sit-stand desk with a top made of the actual facts. The longest in the Meridian range. It helps organizations support sustainability goals without buying worse furniture. Here's how it works and what's included in the current offer. Book an Eco. So it's, as you can see, it does that brand voice really very straightforwardly. And what it doesn't do is it doesn't kind of neuter you. It's still the same message. It's just written in a way that's appropriate for your organization.
So Fraser, could I just check on that one then? So if we were going to use this as a use case for a marketing team, for example, if they created an agent they could share amongst, potentially salespeople or the whole organization to then ensure we've all got the same sort of tone of brand. Is that the
Exactly.
kind of
Yeah.
core use case for
Yeah,
this?
you could put anything you like in there. It could be LinkedIn, it could be emails, it could be, it could be marketing decks, it could be the output from one of your other agents. So the agent that was creating your sales collateral, actually, you could then put that in here and go, actually, can we just have a once over? Can we now just tighten this up? One of the things that often happens is someone says, oh, we should call it carbon neutral. Let's call it carbon neutral. Let's find out. I'm asking it to add a line saying EcoDesk is carbon neutral, and it says, no, I can't do that because that's not part of the approved messaging. So it's trying to catch that. Not, no one's actively trying to trick customers, but what it's trying to do is ensure that any statements or particularly clauses, something like this is carbon neutral and it's not, it's trying to catch that kind of thing and also keep a standardized voice and message in the marketplace. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Beautiful. Right, I think I'm running out of time for any more demos today. Thankfully, they all worked, but those are the three things that we wanted to show you today. Super easy to create, gives really good value for you individually to do the things that you do repeatedly and doing it faster, and hopefully give you at least an 80 or 90% start off of a blank page.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Fraser. Really appreciate that. So I guess just to recap then what we've seen Fraser do today from, someone like myself, day-to-day basis, isn't immersed in this tech like Fraser is. So start with your best saved prompt. Goes back to episode 2 that we mentioned, that you'll be able to get through recordings if you weren't on it. Give it one job to do, keep it narrow, keep it focused. What are you asking this agent to do? Make sure it's got real documents. And as Fraser mentioned, it's your personal agent. So if those documents need to get updated and changed, you need to be responsible for doing it. Test it. Make sure you've run it first before you actually share it with anyone. But then once you are happy with it, share it and improve it, get feedback from people. So, people will say, this is great for this, but could you just tweak this or could you add this? And I guess the key thing is we don't need 10 agents, right? So, let's look at the one thing that we know is the bane of our lives in our job, and let's see if an agent can make that better. So I guess that's the kind of summary from that. And then I'll hand back over to you, Fraser.
Thanks, Emma. It is as simple as that. Don't get me wrong. Agents are awesome, and when we go further up the technical chain, there's so many things it can do. But for the purposes of today, just remember, if you've got a Copilot license, you can do all of this with a few clicks and create your first agent. So do it. But of course, it comes with a little bit of things to think through. So make sure that agents aren't doing something that you are accountable for, because you still need to be in the loop. If we're thinking about hiring and firing decisions, let's not let an agent make those kinds of decisions. Those are decisions that you as a human need to make. So we still need to approve anything that happens. Make sure that if you're going to create something that's got consequence, so for example, like in our legal agent scenario, every single time it responded, it says, terms and conditions, this is not legal advice, because we just need to make sure that users really understand what it's doing and it's not making legal statements, it's supporting you getting somewhere faster. Everything that you already have today, these agents can't override your permissions, so don't worry when you think, oh, well, if I share this with Bob, what's Bob going to be able to do with it? It sticks to your permissions. So if, for example, I used a SharePoint location for one of the files, and then I shared it with Emma, and Emma didn't have access to that SharePoint location, guess what? It's not going to work because it respects your individual personal permissions. It's not overriding those permissions. As Emma's already articulated, knowledge needs an owner. So if you're going to make something like this, it's on you to maintain it. So make sure you keep an eye on these. If you're going to create one, maybe put a little update in your diary to remind you, hang on, better just double check that all that knowledge is still fact. Otherwise, I'm going to be sending out the wrong information. Like if you think about that sales agent, for example. And as soon as you put a name on it, and I like to think when I put a little logo on it, it becomes a thing. Make sure you think about, well, how is this going to evolve? Does it need to still be here? Do we need to retire it? Do we need to create a new one? Do we need to augment it with, the next big release? So just think about that life cycle, a mini life cycle for your personal agent. And if you think about these things, you'll definitely be on the right track. Now, this is not an easy space, and we recognize that some of our colleagues and some of our clients are struggling to think, well, how is AI going to support us? How are we going to do this? And all I really wanted to do today was just show you there are a number of different things that we can do to help you as an organization get to grips with, well, what is your AI strategy? What is your insight? Where do you want it to go? All the way through to some really specific tactical support, how to get agents off the ground, how to get value from your Copilot license, how to get value from Copilot chat, even as basic as, hang on, what is AI? So here at BCM, we've got lots and lots of ways to support, and we kind of class this all in this human plus banner. So lots of things that we can do to support, lots of things that we can take forward. Emma, do you want to talk a little bit about the Copilot in 30
Yeah,
activity?
so we have been clamoring to Microsoft as partners for since 2, 3 years when they released Copilot to allow customers to have a trial of Copilot rather than having to fork out any kind of capex or opex cost. Delighted to tell you that this FY they've actually created their Copilot in 30. So as a client, you get 25 licenses for up to 30 days, free of charge trial. So we've got 3 potential offerings that we've got around this to actually help you make use of them, because again, what we've discovered as a partner, there's no point just giving people Copilot licenses. It's around how do you show the art of the possible. So like the things Fraser's shown you today, if we just deployed your license, you wouldn't necessarily inherently know those things were there. So it's a really great offer. It means you don't have to commit to any kind of licensing. It allows you to pick a specific set of users to trial it. And we're finding already, even though this has only been live a few weeks, we've got lots of customers taking us up on this at the minute.
So, some quick takeaways. The recipe is 4 ingredients: purpose, instructions, knowledge, and starter prompts. We created 3 agents for today's demo, 1 live in session, and you could see it's a few minutes to put together. Once you get your knowledge in there and you're ready to go. So my ask of you is give it a go. Pick that reuse prompt, pick that thing that takes you 10, 15 minutes, build an agent, and test it. Does it work? And if it does, share it with a teammate, because if you get value from it, it's likely they're going to get value from it too. So turn that one prompt, the prompt from episode 2 or episode 3, and turn it into an agent.
And you'll be delighted to know there's going to be an episode 5, which will be on October 8th. And in this, we will be going that step more deep, as Fraser said, using Copilot Studio, where we'll actually be creating AI assistants for different business functions. So you will get information on that, ability to register again.
We've also had another question in the chat. Are there any limitations to data sources? We use SAP for stock and production, etc.
Great question. Join us on episode 5. I mean, I'm kind of joking. So Copilot, today what we showed you was Copilot Studio Lite, and there are limitations in Copilot Studio Lite, not only in types of things that you can upload, but also in size of things that you can upload. When we then go the next step into Copilot Studio, there's much wider things that you can do and much deeper things that you can do. You can start to use things like AI search. You can do you can create repositories of data. You can create lots of other things that give you a bit more richness. Now, sadly, I can't stay specifically on the SAP one, but if you can extract the data, there's things you can do. And we can also create custom connectors. So if you've got like perhaps SAP Business Warehouse, you can then build a connection that says, this is the data that are required to come through. You can do it on a batch job. You can do it live. You can do live API queries. So once we go into the full fat version of Copilot Studio, the limitations are much, much lower, or much higher, depends which way you want to look at that. There are less limitations, but it's not necessarily everything, because the last version, which we'll go to towards December, is going to be about Foundry. And that's where we might do something that's a live full system integration, which is agents on top of SQL, agents on top of other data sources like SAP.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Fraser, but there's also then, if you are then looking at multiple data sources, of which obviously SAP can be, quite extensive and chunky, the other approach is looking to bring your data together into one data source that can then be interrogated by this tech. So you're not having to, on the fly, interrogate multiple data sources. You're actually bringing it under that umbrella of a fabric that you can then source out
That's
Is that
exactly
correct?
it. Yeah,
Okay,
no, you're
that's good.
spot on. We'd start to think about data migrating into kind of normalized views or tables, things that the agent can act fast over. And then once it finds the thing that you're asking about, it can then go deep. So we then need to start really thinking much more around how we manage your data, because with SAP, obviously, you're going to have hundreds of millions, trillions of rows of data. You don't want to chuck all that at an agent and say, you go figure it out. We would then probably pre-process that data in a way that makes the agent performant, but still gives you the power of depth when it needs to go deep.
And it's a great question, because this is actually what I'm seeing loads of customers do. You pick a specific use case for one thing that really affects, like a sales team or a finance team. This is amazing. This is great. I now want to start integrating various data sources. And at that point, it slightly shifts in its focus of, let's sort out your data then so that we can now make use of it. So that's kind of how we see that customer journey work.
Great. Any more questions?
That's it for now. I can't see anything else in there. So I would just like to take this opportunity to thank you all again for joining us, especially in the middle of summer, and really look forward to seeing you all again on October the 8th. Thank you again, Fraser. Fantastic session. Many
No problem
thanks,
at all.
everyone. Have a good rest of your
Fantastic.
day.
Have a good one.